A live look at the skyline of Toronto tonight, where there's been a big shakeup in the world of sports. The Toronto Maple Leafs fired head coach Mike Babcock this afternoon, just one day after the team lost their sixth game in a row. Babcock was hired to bring a Stanley Cup to Toronto like he did for Detroit, but the Leafs failed to win a single playoff round with him behind the bench. The CBC's Greg Ross has the story.
You know what happens when there's panic in this city. It gets blown out of proportion, and there's no doubt that a lot of people were thinking that this was the right time. Let's think about how much things have changed over the last 5 years or so. Remember, Mike Babcock hired by the Leafs in May of 2015, and it was a celebration in this city when that happened. People were so exciting. It felt like a victory for this team, and it signified what was a turnaround in this franchise. Remember, the Leafs had struggled for more than a decade before hiring Mike Babcock, and he really did help to turn things around with this franchise. Obviously, there were some key draft picks and some key player acquisitions that happened during that time as well, but Babcock was there at the helm for this turnaround. And in his few years, he saw that success, particularly in the regular season. He missed the playoffs his first year here as they started that rebuild, but the last 3 seasons, he had led them to the postseason. The big problem was they couldn't get the job done when it counted most. They were eliminated in the first round each of those seasons, and I think that put a lot of pressure on Mike Babcock's shoulders going into this year. He had to turn things around. He had to find a way to make this a team that was not only a first-round playoff team, but a contender for a championship. That's the reason that they brought him here. But after this start, 23 games into the season, the struggles that this team has had, they've been struggling right out of the gate. But let's face it, the last 6 games is when things have really started to turn south for the Leafs. They've seen as they plummeted in the Eastern Conference standings. And I think there were a lot of fears that this could continue. And this, I guess, was a move by Kyle Dubas and Brendan Shanahan to try and stop that bleeding. I've been looking at social media, and the reaction is mixed. Because remember, a lot of people really like Mike Babcock in this city. A lot of people were very happy when he came over here with those 2 gold medals, with the Stanley Cup championship rings that he had, but he couldn't get the job here done. And the problem is that those fans felt that it was time. So a mixed reaction, because I don't think there's a lot of people that disliked Mike Babcock, but a lot of people that did feel it was time for him to go. Here's what some of the people we talked to had to say.
Well, I don't think that all the messing with the lines that he's done as of late has really proven to be prosperous for us. And I think that we need a little bit more stability in our lines. And I think that that'll probably help us moving forward.
He was a legend. They wanted him here, and he was a legend. And now all of a sudden the team's doing poorly, so it's his fault. No, there's more to it than that.
I mean, it was time, though, honestly. Something have to do. I mean, what happened with the Raptors, right? When all those changes, as hard as it was for the fans, we got the championship. Same for the Leafs. It was time.
You know, a lot of people also saying that they felt like Mike Babcock maybe had lost the room, that the players no longer were listening to him. And when that happens, that really is the end for a coach with this team. If the players aren't listening and they're not getting the results with the draft picks that they've had, with the players that they have right now, the big contracts that they have, something has to give. And certainly Kyle Dubas felt that this was the time to fire his head coach.
All right, that was the CBC's Greg Ross in Toronto tonight. And I want to tell you, Babcock's replacement will be Sheldon Keefe. He comes from the Toronto's AHL affiliate, the Toronto Marlies.